Hello everyone. Before we delve into today's episode, I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who supports us by liking and sharing our content. Please take a moment to say hello and leave a comment, letting us know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement is truly appreciated and contributes to making this channel stand out. If you're new to our channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. And now, take a moment to relax, turn off the lights, and let's get started. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how I lost my friend in the woods of New Mexico when I was 12 years old. Even after a search and rescue team scoured the area for months, no one ever found anything. This story takes place 20 years ago, north of Eldora. My friends, Jake and Ethan, and I loved to camp during our summer break, and since our house was nestled in the woods, it didn't take long to find a decent camping spot. One summer, we decided to challenge ourselves and camp separately to see how we'd fare on our own. I wandered far from our usual camping spots, drawn towards the open areas and meadows. It was the farthest from home I had ever camped. Jake decided to stick to one of our usual spots, and as for Ethan, I had no clue where he went. Luckily, we had radios to communicate in case anything went wrong. We all left at 10 o'clock in the morning, and Jake radioed me around midday when he reached his spot. I called in around 1 p.m., but we began to worry when we hadn't heard from Ethan. The radio crackled, announcing that he had found a spot pretty late in the day. Relieved to hear from him, we continued with our camping routine. We set up our tents, started fires, and spent the warm summer night under a blanket of stars. Everything was usual up until midnight when I heard strange noises on my radio. It sounded like one of the guys was trying to talk to me, but the signal was terrible. Eventually, Ethan's voice broke through, and he asked how we were doing. We said we were okay, but questioned why it took him so long to find a spot. "I'm far away," he replied. He had found a spot beyond some hills north of us. The only hills in the area were about a mile away, so Ethan was quite far out there. It struck me as odd, but he insisted the area was great, so we all went to sleep around 1 or 2 in the morning. Just before dawn, I was awakened by the sound of footsteps running past my camp. At first, I thought it was Jake, but when I unzipped my tent, I saw Ethan. It was strange. I didn't see his face, only his back, but I could tell it was him by his clothing and hair color. I called out to him, but he didn't stop or acknowledge me. He just ran across the meadow and disappeared into the dark woods. Assuming it was some kind of prank, I grabbed my flashlight and looked around the tree line, but there was nothing. It was too late for Ethan to be playing games, and he should have had his radio on him. I tried to contact him, and he picked up, denying ever being near our camps. Throughout that night, I swore I saw him 3 more times. Each time he would run past, but he wouldn't talk to me or even acknowledge me. At dawn, I contacted Jake, and he told me that Ethan had also run into his camp, calling for him to look at something. Pete, who didn't sleep that night, said Ethan had run into his camp and called for him to look at something too. Pete told me he hadn't seen Ethan, so I decided to head to Pete's camp to investigate further. Pete explained that Ethan said he needed help, but every time Pete asked what was wrong, Ethan would just repeat the first question. Pete got tired of this strange behavior and went back to sleep. After some time, he called out to Ethan again, but there was no response. Disturbed and concerned, we decided to find Ethan's camp and clear things up. We followed the nearest hills and found footprints in the mud. Following them, we lost the trail when the soil dried. Climbing a tree, we spotted a spot of red in the distance, hoping it was Ethan's tent. Determined, we hiked an extra mile until we reached his campsite, secluded in a clearing deep in the woods. As we approached, we realized something was terribly wrong. Ethan's tent was torn to shreds, belongings scattered, and his radio thrown into a long-gone campfire. We searched for Ethan for hours, but found no trace of him. We were filled with fear and confusion, not knowing what could have happened to our friend. Feeling desperate, we decided to hike back towards the hills to get a better view of the surrounding area. Finally, to our relief, we saw Ethan standing on top of a hill not far from us. We shouted and ran towards him, thinking we had finally found him. But Pete stopped abruptly, his expression filled with horror. Something was not right. Although the figure on the hill closely resembled Ethan, the way it moved and its facial expressions were off. As we cautiously walked towards it, the figure began to smile abnormally large, stretching from ear to ear. It sent shivers down our spines. Suddenly, without warning, the figure dropped to all fours and started running down the hill, losing its resemblance to Ethan and transforming into something unimaginable. Its skin stretched tightly over its bony body, its head elongated with a strange circular mouth and black, beady eyes. It emitted a chilling, otherworldly scream that echoed through the woods, all while maintaining the distorted voice of Ethan. We were frozen in terror as we watched this grotesque creature vanish into the depths of the forest. To this day, I struggle to find an explanation for what we witnessed. It defied all logic and understanding. We were left with more questions than answers. What had happened to Ethan? What was that creature that wore his likeness? And why did it torment us throughout that dreadful night? We reported the incident to the authorities and shared our harrowing experience with them. However, they were unable to provide any plausible explanations. The search for Ethan continued, but it yielded no results. Eventually, the case went cold, and it seemed as though the truth would remain forever hidden in the depths of those eerie woods. Over the years, I have revisited the events of that fateful night countless times in my mind. It haunts me, a lingering mystery that refuses to be solved. I have shared this story with only a few trusted individuals, fearing ridicule or disbelief from the majority. But deep down, I know that something inexplicable occurred, something beyond the realm of human understanding. If anyone reading this has any insight, any knowledge of similar occurrences, or any theories about what we experienced and what happened to our friend Ethan, I implore you to share your thoughts. Perhaps together, we can shed some light on this enigma and find solace in knowing that we are not alone in our inexplicable encounter with the unknown. I've always loved camping, especially in the fall when the leaves are changing colors and the air is crisp. So when my best friend, Emily, asked me to go camping with her for her birthday, I jumped at the chance. We packed up our gear and headed out to a secluded spot in the woods known as Hollowbrook, where Emily's family had been camping for years. As we hiked in, I felt a sense of silence, but in a chilling way. It was like we were the only two people in the world. The hike was relatively short, and when we arrived at the campsite, we both started working on setting everything up. This only took a portion of an hour, and after we finished, we decided to go for a hike. We ventured straight north, deviating from the beaten path, exploring the unknown until we stumbled upon a faded trail. Emily had never seen it before and was confused, claiming there was nothing out here. Nevertheless, curiosity got the better of us, and we followed the trail as it wound through the woods, eventually leading us to what appeared to be an old abandoned cottage. The cabin was small and weather-beaten, with broken windows and a sagging roof. Emily was eager to explore it, and although hesitant, I couldn't resist the allure of the unknown. So we stepped inside. It was clear that no one had been there for years. We cautiously poked around, searching for intriguing artifacts or clues about its previous occupants, but found nothing substantial. Just as we were about to leave, something caught my eye. A door, tucked away in the corner of the cabin, had gone unnoticed until that moment. It was small and adorned with a rusted padlock. I pointed it out to Emily, and her curiosity piqued. The lock seemed ancient, covered in rust. I knocked on the door, knowing nobody would be inside, but wanting to be sure. Emily went outside and fetched a large rock, handing it to me. I smashed it against the lock, taking a few solid hits until it finally gave way. As the door creaked open, darkness enveloped us, obscuring our vision. Emily shone her flashlight through the doorway, revealing a staircase leading down. A shiver ran down our spines, but we reassured ourselves that there was nothing to fear. After all, nobody had been here for years. With trepidation, I led the way down the steep staircase. It was a short descent of 8 to 10 steps before it opened up into an eerie room. What we beheld was disturbing and inexplicably strange. Several small mattresses lay scattered on the ground, accompanied by random furniture. They appeared modern, as if they couldn't be more than 5 years old. A sense of dread washed over me, and without a word, both of us rushed back upstairs, pushing the door shut and standing there, unsure of what we had just witnessed. We debated whether the room was a crime scene of some sort, as everything seemed out of place. As I was speaking, Emily suddenly shushed me, her eyes fixed on the distance. Footsteps were drawing near, approaching the cabin. They came right up to it, but inexplicably walked past without stopping. Confusion etched across our faces. We watched until the footsteps faded into the night. Once they were far away, we sprinted back to our campsite and then hurried to Emily's place. We called the police, uncertain if something sinister had transpired. To us, the fact that the person had walked past without stopping indicated a familiarity with the cabin. We didn't know if it was a sign of something nefarious, so we left it to the authorities to decide. They searched the cabin and its surroundings, but found nothing that could explain the mystery. The police described it as extraordinary, implying that something dreadful might have occurred. But they found no tangible evidence to support that claim. The incident became the talk of the town, with the community speculating on every possibility and theory regarding the cabin's dark history. Eventually, the city decided to tear down the cabin, fearing that curious visitors might bring unwanted attention. The secrets of the cabin remained unrevealed, and it seemed they would forever be shrouded in darkness. In 2019, my childhood friend Jake, my cousin Max, and I embarked on an epic cross-country bicycle journey to raise funds for a leukemia research foundation. Our tires crunched over diverse terrains as we pedaled through the heart of America, camping under the stars each night in town parks or campgrounds. One particular evening found us in Sheridan, Wyoming, a place that seemed to epitomize the middle of nowhere. The day unfolded routinely until the sun dipped below the horizon. Nestled in my sleeping bag beneath a pavilion in the town's sole park, I began to detect a faint yet persistent radio static, like someone toppling through channels, catching snippets of songs and commercials. The static intensified, reaching an undeniable volume that irked both Jake and me. Exhausted from a 70-mile ride that day, and facing another 60 miles on the morrow, I was furious and set out to confront the source of the disturbance. As I rose, two unsettling observations struck me. It was 1:30 a.m., a time inconceivable given our recent return from dinner at 8:30, and the campsite in downtown lay eerily deserted. Undeterred, I decided to trace the source of the static, leading me to unexpected places around Sheridan, the water tower, Main Street, and ultimately a vast cornfield at the town's edge. The sound seemed to dance with the wind, shifting directions unpredictably. Unwilling to venture into the field, I abandoned my investigation and returned to my sleeping bag, craving rest. The most disconcerting turn of events occurred when I inserted earbuds to drown out the static, only to find its volume escalating. It was now emanating from inside my own head. The sensation sent shivers down my spine, and I questioned the reality of what I was experiencing. After a restless night, I awoke to a day of cycling through a relentless downpour. Strangely, my head was silent, devoid of the unnerving static. Curious and slightly unnerved, I asked Jake if he experienced the strange phenomenon as well. He confirmed hearing it but attributed it to other campers or some kind of interference. However, the campsite and the entire town remained empty. Something was definitely amiss. Unrelated, yet on that rainy morning, I received the heartbreaking news of my childhood dog's passing, plunging me into my first encounter with grief. It may have been coincidental, but the events of that night in Sheridan lingered in my memory as an intriguing and spooky experience. As our journey continued, the strange occurrences of that night faded into the background, overshadowed by the challenges and triumphs of our cross-country ride. We pedaled through breathtaking landscapes, witnessed the kindness of strangers who supported our cause, and encountered unexpected obstacles along the way. Every town we visited had its unique charm, and we formed connections with people whose paths we crossed. Months passed, and we finally reached our destination on the opposite coast. The bicycle journey had become more than just a fundraiser, it had transformed us. We had grown physically and mentally stronger, learned to appreciate the beauty of the open road, and developed a deep sense of camaraderie. The memories of that haunting night in Sheridan remained etched in our minds, serving as a reminder of the mysteries and wonders that could be found in the most unexpected places. Years later, as I reflect on that cross-country adventure, I still wonder about the source of the radio static and the strange emptiness that enveloped Sheridan that night. Was it a mere coincidence, a trick of the mind, or something far more inexplicable? Regardless, the experience taught me to embrace the unknown, to seek adventure even in the face of uncertainty, and to cherish the bonds forged through shared challenges. And so, the story of our cross-country bicycle journey lives on, a remarkable chapter in our lives that continues to inspire us and remind us of the power of friendship, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of exploration.